Hey guys, Moose with Cerakote. Today we're going to talk about prep. Cerakote application is a process. A lot of people think of Cerakote and they think of the fame and glory of spraying. That ends up being about 5% of it. 95% of it goes into the prep process. We're going to cover today degreasing, sandblasting, and outgassing. Why these three things are so important, why you shouldn't cut corners, what could potentially happen if you do. Let's dive into it. Degreasing, super important part of the prep process with Cerakote. Here at headquarters and in our training manual, we recommend using acetone for metals. Acetone works great, it's aggressive. We normally say let those parts soak in a degreasing tank for about 30 minutes. Once that 30 minutes is up, you can take those parts out, let that acetone evaporate, and then we can move on with the prep process. For alternative substrates like plastics, polymers, carbon fiber, fiberglass, stuff like that, we can recommend wax and grease remover or isopropyl alcohol, or better known as IPA. When it comes to using IPA, I recommend getting the highest percentage of IPA. Normally when you're starting to get into those lower percentages of 50, 60, 70% IPA, that other percentage is a moisture mixture. And we want to try and eliminate moisture within this prep process as much as possible. There's also another alternative, and this works great if you're trying to do metals, composites, and alternative substrates all in one bath. And that's Simple Green. Simple Green works great, but it is a water-based mixture. So when we're degreasing parts in Simple Green, you're gonna pull that part out, it's gonna have a film on it. We gotta either rinse that part to get the film gone or wipe that film away. But now knowing that I introduce those parts to moisture, I kinda wanna introduce those parts to a temperature in the oven to try and extract all that moisture out of said part before moving on to the prep process. Once again, that moisture could lead to blasting media contamination. It could also lead to coating contamination. When it comes to degreasing, you wanna make sure that you are changing out your degreasing solution often. If you're throwing a bunch of oily parts into a degrease tank and you're never changing that acetone out, or you're never changing out that Simple Green, that oil's never really leaving, it's never really going away. So I recommend, depending on the volume that you're doing, you're swapping that stuff out on a pretty regular basis. So next, let's dive into the blasting contamination or the blasting phase of prep. With Cerakote being a direct to substrate thin film coating, we really rely on our blasting profile for the best adhesion with our coating. We have tested here at headquarters, and this is why we recommend a certain grit size and blasting pressure. The profile depth that we achieve with 100 grit media is as deep as the coating is thick. So if we try and opt away from 100 grit and go to 120 or 180 grit, we are gonna get too shallow of a profile, and then our coating is thicker than that profile. So we're not gonna get the best adhesion. When it comes to keeping up on your media, it's as simple as that. When you put brand new media into your blast cabinet and you blast for, let's say, a week, a couple weeks, a month, really depending on volume, that media is gonna start to break down over time. That 100 grit is gonna turn into 120. It's gonna turn into 180. Hopefully it doesn't turn into 220. Hopefully we're changing it out before then. But when it breaks down over time, that profile gets weaker, and we're still applying that 1 to 2 mils of Cerakote. So we're actually losing adhesion when the media starts to wear out. I hear it a lot. My Cerakote job chips or flakes. Normally it comes down to not blasting at the right pressure, not blasting with the right grit size of media, or blasting with rundown, ragged media that maybe at one point it was 100 grit. But it's been in the cabinet for so long and been blasted on so hard that it's now actually 120, 180 grit. So just make sure you're keeping a good working mix of media in your blast cabinet. We add media to all of our blasters here once a week. And that ensures that our filtration is pulling out our broken down media, and then we're adding in new media to replace what gets pulled out with the filter. One good thing to maybe do as a visual cue or a visual test, when you put new media in, blast a practice part, blast a panel, put that part by your blaster, and as you take parts out throughout the week or throughout the month, you're kind of referencing, this is what new media looks like, this is the aggressive, nice, clean color of a blast profile, and then as the media starts to break down, you'll start to notice that part starts to get dull, maybe you can start to see some shiny parts on there, add new media or do a media swap. The next part here that you want to be concerned about and keep an eye out for is blasting media contamination. First, we should be degreasing the part, and we should be doing that properly. But let's say we forget to do that and we throw an oily, ragged part into the blast cabinet. Media is porous. It's gonna wanna absorb any oils or contaminants or moisture that you might be blasting off of a part or could be embedded into a part. It's all fine and dandy to remove that stuff off of that project, but the next project that you put into that blast cabinet, you are now gonna be blasting it with oily media, and that can cause surface contamination. And if we didn't notice it and we applied coating, you put that part into the oven, that oil out of the substrate seeps to the surface, it now affects the adhesion of the Cerakote to the actual substrate. So make sure we follow that degreasing phase to the book and we're doing that properly. But also, if you know you contaminated that media, it's time to do a full media swap, wipe down the inside of that blaster, and add in new fresh media so we don't contaminate any job going forward. Now we got gas out. You may degrease a part, you may sandblast that part, you get it out of the blaster, and it looks peachy clean. You go to put some Cerakote on it, you throw that bad boy into the oven, and what you don't know is you got oils, contaminants, or any other thing embedded into the pores of that substrate that are now gonna leach out under that temperature. And when that happens, that's gonna create a barrier between the substrate and the Cerakote that we're trying to get to adhere to it. That can cause delamination, poor coating adhesion, a bunch of different issues. So we definitely wanna make sure that we're gassing out every part that comes into your shop at least once to know that it doesn't gas out or it does. We recommend gassing metal parts out at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. We recommend gassing out plastics, polymers, and composites anywhere from 150 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour as well. If you do see oil seeping out of the substrate, you're gonna take it out, let it cool, re-degrease, re-sandblast, and then I'm gonna put that part back into the oven to make sure that nothing else is coming out. Some parts can gas out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. This is kind of a painstaking part of the process. But if you don't follow this and you try to skip this step, you run the risk of getting a really bad adhesion to the substrate, which could equal a failed coating job. As far as gas out goes, we just did a brand new video on gas out. So if you're curious on how you could expedite that process, I heavily recommend checking that out. We'll drop that link down below. Also, if you want a deeper dive into degreasing, what different solvents can you use, different processes, things like that, we'll also link that video down below. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, follow for more. See you on the next one.